Wonderful. So, Stefan, you ready? Yeah. Stefan Rudnitsky.
Thank you. One thing up front, I work here. Yeah? So, if you recognize any bias, it's maybe because of that. Yeah. When I started working on that talk, I asked myself, what is the modern way of work? What is modern work? What is work 3.0 and all that stuff? And normally you would assume to hear things like move fast and break things, fail early, or something like that. Work harder. And what I asked myself is, seriously? Is this what we want to connect to modern work, to modern companies, to the next big thing after agile? Wouldn't it be better if it is something like this? Wouldn't it be great if modern work would be something like passion? Something like being engaged with a company, with the things you do, with the things you love. Who am I? First things first. I organize 2 user groups here in Berlin. One is the MongoDB user group, and the other one is the async cat herding user group. There we share insights about cat holding and napping and all that stuff. No, it's about collaboration, asynchronous decision making, and because of that, I came to the idea together with Isabel Drost-Fromm to create a new conference that is called Force Backstage. We had the first event on Monday this week here in this room, and the first real staged event will be in next year, right after Berlin Buzzwords. So if you are into the open source thing and like to learn things about financing, governance, decision making, conflict management, or just the legal stuff of open source, but definitely not the technical stuff, this conference may be something for you, so keep it in mind. You can buy tickets now. On the other hand, in my business life, I'm working at Europace as a lead developer. At least this is my last official title. What do we do here? Well, we build a business-to-business to customer platform for mortgages and private loans and all that stuff. And as I said, my title, or better, my last valid title, official title, was lead developer. This changed within the last 2 years. And why it changed and what we learned while doing this is the contents of this talk. So, just as a brief overview, Europace 3 years ago, back in the days we were called Hypoport, that changed 2 years ago. We were a classic German company with hierarchies, with steering boards, with executive managers, and we had special roles like head architects. So, nothing special here, everyone knows that. And just to give you another brief example, let's talk for a moment about salaries. How did we do salaries 3 years ago? Well, you had your line managers, and the line manager sat together hopefully with other line managers, and they talked about your performance, and they came up with an offer, and then at a certain time later on, you had your appointment with your line manager, and you said how you felt within the last year and shared your expectations and maybe your insights, how you performed and what was great and what was not so great. And then these special 5 minutes came up where you get your offer and you could say no or yes. So quite normal German salary things. Okay? Nothing special here, to be honest. Why do I share this with you? Because we changed it. And how we changed it will be part of the talk later on. What is Europace today? Well, today Europace basically consists of 4 units. What is a unit, you may ask now? A unit basically consists of something about 20 to 35 people. We thought the terminology team would be not so good, so we call them units now. Easy fix? No, not really. A unit is created around a big part of the product, the Europace platform. And you will have these things like, for example, for the real estate thing, we have a front-end part, and this is handled and developed and taken care of by one unit. And we have another front-end part for the private loans, and this is another unit. And then we will have the real back-end, where the banks are connected to, and where we do the calculation stuff. And this is split into two, so there are two more units. And where come the basic idea of teams into play at that point? Well, along stories. So if we create a new feature, this is a story for us. And if we do this, if we develop this, this is a small team that basically consists of 2 to, let's say, 6 or 7 people. And if they finished the story, then they break apart, and along the new story, a new story team will be created. So, and furthermore, 2 years ago, we discovered things like Holacracy, Sorcerocracy, and who read Reinventing Organizations? Anyone? A few hands go up. Something like Teal. And these books really changed our mind when we asked ourselves, what would be the next huge step after Agile, after doing Scrum and Kanban and developing these things and, let's say, finding new things. And we came to the idea that it would be great to try out something new. And what really was the new thing that all these different approaches shared from our perspective was self-organization. And so we said, hey, this should be something we try to achieve in the near future. And therefore, we created this, not really new company, because Europace already exists before for the product Europace, the platform. And 2 years ago, we started putting the people that develop the platform from Hypoport to Europace. So basically, those of you who know Hypoport already and who know, let's say, this place from meetups 2 years ago or something like that, basically, the people you met there are the same people you met now, but they are working for Europace. Why did we do that? We not just said we need to change the name. We came to the idea it would be a great chance to have a higher autonomy in comparison to being part of the Hypoport concern. So that gave us the chance to start something new, to try to achieve a greater goal for the company, whilst trying out new things like Holacracy, like Sorcerocracy, like Teal. And nowadays, within these 4 units, we have several custom flavors of self-organization. One unit is really strict concerning Sorcerocracy. Another unit, let's say, is inspired by certain aspects of Holacracy, and 2 other units try to pick the best matches for them, what really feels great, and this is a great advantage because you can, let's say, focus on the people and what the people really need, and not what, let's say, we think would be the best. Yeah, so there is no one-size-fits-all solution, and this allows us to, let's say, be more flexible and to allow the different approaches and the different mindsets of the people to grow and to find their place. And basically what we believe is that within self-organization, you basically try to move responsibility and decisions from the few to the many. And this is basically one of the major things this talk tries to share. Sorry. Because we believe decisions should be made in circles. What is a circle? Basically, a circle consists of people that feel responsible for a certain something. This can be something like architecture, like microservice infrastructure, like development infrastructure, like you name it. And on the other hand, it should consist of people that feel the outcome if they decide something. So that you don't have this Dilbert move all the time where the management decides something and the others feel the outcome. And then, just as a very brief example, the circle is able to make decisions. One thing that you have to keep in mind is something like accountability. And I don't mean accountability like whom to blame, more like whom to praise. Because they feel the outcome, because they know what happened. They can be really accountable. They know what happened before, hopefully before everyone else noticed. And on the other hand, if a decision turns out good, you really know whom to thank for. And this is something awesome. What we, on the other hand, learned is the differentiation between consent and consensus. Yeah, within consensus, we know everyone who is, let's say, involved in a decision needs to say yes to make a decision happen. Within consent, there should not be any objection. So you just need not, you shouldn't just not say no. Yeah, but it is allowed, it is possible to stay quiet because maybe you don't care, maybe you are not part of the decision, or maybe you don't feel the outcome. And this is a big difference between the two. Because within consensus, we all know that a decision meeting is scheduled and you are invited. Yeah? And you go there because, hey, it is a decision meeting. It is an honor to be there and to be part of a decision, even if you don't care, even if you don't feel the outcome, even if you are not involved in the outcome of the decision. And what do you do in a classic approach? Do you really say, well, nice to sit here, nice cookies, I like the coffee, great? Or do you say yes when they ask, do we want to do this? Even if you don't care.
So why we are still in the circles, these guys?
Just a moment. The circles are a representation to show others who feels a certain responsibility. And it's just a method to give a group of people, let's say, a form of representation. You could call it groups or tribes or whatever. Nope. Didn't answer the question.
My point was that if these guys which are in the circle should care about it, so why you provided the example when somebody came and didn't actually care about the decision? So why he was in that part in the circle?
Okay, so the question is, why is someone in the circle if he or she does not care about the outcome? Let's say, for example, if you have a circle that feels a responsibility for microservice infrastructure, maybe you will, at some point in time, you will be confronted with the decision what container orchestrator you should use. And maybe you will have people that are really engaged into this stuff and that really feel a need to, let's say, make a decision for Kubernetes or for Swarm or whatever. And maybe you don't care about this special question. But on the other hand, you still feel the responsibility about the microservice infrastructure. Yeah. So, sorry. This differentiation is something very important when it comes to self-organization and doing decisions within circles or doing decisions within great scopes like units, because it allows you to move faster forward and not try to achieve consensus, which can be really difficult, especially if you have, let's say, 20 people or something like that. It can be really hard to achieve, but it is, in the end, if you achieve true consensus, it is awesome because you know that everyone really stands behind the decision. But it is hard to achieve. It can take lots of time. And especially if you want to try out new things, if you want to learn it, if you know that failing is an option, maybe this is not needed. This is why we started with the spirit of this differentiation. So we started doing circle work, and we had several experiences. For example, after we had the kickoff and we created our circles and we made all these awesome responsibilities the people felt and thrived for made visible, we really had a huge focus on organizational topics. We had that situation where we really ignored our daily development work because we had that great opportunity to think about things like doing a decision for microservice infrastructure, or thinking about a new JDK update. Yeah, because everyone knows that. If you as a developer go to your product owner and say, hey, it should be awesome to upgrade to the new JDK, you maybe are confronted with the question, sounds awesome, but why? What is the benefit for our customers? And if you answer honestly, the answer should be hopefully nothing. Yeah, we all know from the Java world there can be some sort of impact. Okay, for security, or back in the days, years ago, where they made these incompatible changes while parsing XML and all that stuff. Maybe someone remembers. Yeah, so we all know a JDK upgrade may not be so easy as you assume. Okay, great. But this leads to maybe let's not do it, because our customers won't recognize it. There will be no business value and all that stuff. There are more important things to do first. So keep that stuff closed in the door and let us wait until we have time. Never. And this is something where we really had the energy and the focus to do this, to think about these things and to make decisions. And this time was awesome. But, as I said, we ignored our daily development work. And at some point in time, we got feedback by our customers. They said, hey, in the past you were faster. Why are we waiting so long? What takes you so long? And so what did we do? The pendulum swung backwards. We said, okay, there was a time where we focused on doing organizational stuff, so now we go back to our daily business. We start developing again, and we ignore the organizational stuff, do we? No, we were clever. We said, hey, we have this new thing called Slack. Let's do decisions asynchronously within a chat tool. It's a great idea, isn't it? We thought so. We learned it wasn't. Why do we learn that? Because something very interesting happened. When you have a decision meeting, even in a circle, so a small amount of people, and if you only try to achieve consent and not consensus, you see the others. You see their facial expressions, you see their body reactions, and you hear their tonality within their answers. This is something you don't have when you use a chat. And so we had these moments where we had attention, and we had a proposal, and we shared it within the chat, and nothing happened. And then, as someone who has a problem, you're kind of screwed, because you don't know, is this just consent and nobody has an opinion about it, so we can just go on? Or did nobody read it? And what do developers do at that point? Hey, we came up with some rather interesting rules, like we wait only 2 weeks, and then we had holidays, and all this lucky things like sicknesses and all that stuff. In the end, we learned, okay, this does not work. We still need our meetings, we need this exchange. And on the other hand, we need someone who takes care about the health of the circle. And so we read the literature again, and we came up with the role that is called a lead link within the Holacracy. And basically, this is someone from the circle, and this special someone has another responsibility on top of the circle's responsibility. He or she represents the circle to the outside and watches the circle closely and gives feedback. For example, if the circle currently is in a deadlock situation, or if it misbehaves, or if everything is healthy. And now you can ask yourself, how do you get someone who gets this further responsibility within a self-organized environment? Any ideas? Elections. Okay. How do you get the guys that you can elect?
Rotating roles.
Excuse me?
Some kind of rotating.
Rotation, another interesting approach. We thought volunteering would be great. Yeah, so everyone who wants to do it just raises his or her arm, and then we will see. It is a great approach because you basically get the people who want to take that responsibility. But from sociocracy, we learned another approach. That is promoting. So not just electing people, more really promoting. You hold up a meeting, everyone who's engaged with the circle sits there and has a possibility to promote someone. And this is awesome because it allows the whole group to give positive feedbacks. For example, for people that don't feel comfortable, that are, let's say, insecure if they can take that responsibility, that are insecure if they are the right fit for that job. And by promoting them, the whole circle has a possibility to give them a positive feedback, to show them, we trust you, we believe in you, we think you are the best fit. And this is a very great signal for them. So, I always talked about technical things. At some point in time, we asked ourselves, hey, as an IT company in Berlin, do we want to grow? Yes, we want. Is recruiting something where we need a circle for? Yes, we want. And so we asked ourselves, who wants to be part of this recruiting circle? Several arms went up, mine as well. And we said, hey, awesome, we have a recruiting circle. That was a naive approach. Don't get me wrong. It was awesome in the beginning because we had all these possibilities. We could rethink the whole recruiting process. We could reshape our job advertisements, really get them to the point where we think that our team should be represented to the outside. And we had the possibility to change the recruiting process to something that allowed the participants to see what self-organization means. And it was awesome. It was really, really awesome. It were fun months up to the time where we had our first internal job application. And this changed everything. Because you get a request from a current colleague who wants to join your team, you have the possibility to see the other side of responsibility. Don't get me wrong, if you have job applications from the outside, these are people as well. Yeah? And so you decide amongst the CVs and their letters about the future of these people. If you invite them or if you decline them, that is a hard responsibility. But it changes a lot if you do this with a colleague that works just a few rooms away from you. Because your feedback, your decision, may turn a current colleague into an ex-colleague, someone who's not working here anymore. And that was a very, very intense moment for us because we were confronted with this situation. It really caught us on the cold. It was an amazing moment where we realized, oh my God, we have this responsibility as well. What happens if we say no? And how do we say no if we want to say no? What do we do? And this led to a full stop in our daily work within that recruiting circle. And we really have to come up with great ideas and to think about how to give feedback and how to handle these situations. How can a person react if you say no, if you say yes, and what does it do with them, and how to take care about it? We were not prepared at that moment with this situation. And what we learned is, well, recruiting can be challenging, okay, that it is a quite good idea to ask people who do that, who have the experience with it. So if you have a good HR team, and I know this is not guaranteed and don't take it for granted, but if you have good HR, ask them. These guys are the experts. So ask them, get their knowledge, and learn from them. And on the other hand, we had the possibility to integrate the team a lot more than it was before. And this is, on the other hand, also very, very great because you have all these different perspectives on a job applicant. And you have a great chance to give a really great feedback if, for example, you have to decline the candidate. And not just the feedback of a line manager that says, well, I think you're not qualified enough. Have a nice day. Yeah? It is really challenging and it takes a lot of time, okay, honestly, but it is worth it because the candidates really know why there was no fit or why it was successful in the end. and they can accept it, and they can learn from it, and they can improve, and not just no. So, as I mentioned, there are two sides of responsibility if you do self-organization. The first one is, awesome, I can decide things I couldn't decide before. And on the other hand, you have these dark sides like, who is accountable? Do I really want to be accountable if I order 20 MacBooks? Should my name be put on that bill? And what about these uncomfortable decisions? Like whom to hire, whom to fire? Do I really have the skills? These line managers back in the past, they had a training for this, right? They know what to do. They learned it. They are the experts. Exactly. They also had a steep learning curve. They had to get along with these situations. Or group dynamics, another interesting thing. What happens if the whole team, let's say, comes to the conclusion, let's buy new MacBooks for the whole team, an order of 200K. What is if this decision turns out bad? Do you fire the whole team? I don't think so. Yeah? To be honest, I don't think that firing someone is a solution. Yeah? It is just a possibility, and it is a yeah. Okay, I got it. No, it is a possibility to, let's say, calm your mind or to really get along with nasty situations and all that stuff. But you can't do this with the whole team. You can't fire 30 people. You can do that, but then what about product development? It will starve to death. So this is not really a valid option to do this. Or what is if someone observes a certain behavior and others don't? If you have this situation, one against the others, how do you solve this? Or who really decides if everyone is affected? As I said, in a circle, everyone should be there who feels the outcome of the decision. What about these team decisions? Hey, we want to paint the team room black. Great idea, isn't it? Yeah. And honestly, what happens at our unit was we fall back to consensus. Yeah? We really were there again. Most of us decide, and we hate that. We had that great discussions, and it took us a long time to learn that, to observe that. And how do we hope to get better? Well, feedback. Yeah? In the end, it is feedback. You observe behavior, and you tell others about it, and you hope that behavior changes. Luckily enough, at Europace, we have a very grown feedback culture that is rather old, and this is good because we have lots of experience with it. We respect the feedback rules. That means keep your opinions at the door, share observed behavior and what feelings arise, and strengths, and don't blame anyone because of his or her weaknesses. On the other hand, we started this years ago with peer feedbacks. That means I want to have feedback from you, so I ask you, do you want to give me feedback? Maybe you say yes, and afterwards we talk about it, and period. What we did 2 years ago was, or what we introduced were 360 feedbacks. This means that the whole team gives feedback for someone, and someone else writes it down, and afterwards presents it. So it is feedback in the absence. And on the other hand, what we are doing nowadays is, it is the best translation I could come up with, it is gossiping in the presence of the person concerned. So it is 360 feedback, and the feedback, the person who receives the feedback is in the same room. And this is amazing, really. Because the person really has a possibility to hear the tonality, to hear what everyone says. It can be rather difficult, yes, but it is worth it. Do we force it? No. If the person who receives the feedback does not want to join, then we fall back to 360. But it is From my personal point of view, it is better to be part of, because if you have someone who collects the feedback for you and afterwards tells you about it, you have something that we in Germany call stille Post. Yeah? Schulz von Thun, anyone? So someone says something, another one tries to understand it and interprets it and then writes it down, which on the other hand means he or she tries to verbalize it, and afterwards he or she uses this to tell you what someone else has told them. What can possibly go wrong? Yeah? It is better than no feedback at all, to be honest, really. Yeah? Don't do gossiping in the presence of someone who is concerned if you're not feeling comfortable with it. But if you have the possibility, if you're really into it, this is a great method. So, now you can ask yourself, well, that was all the team stuff, sounds like Scrum, sounds like Agile, but how do you manage precisely? From my personal point of view, management has lots to do with making decisions and doing decisions and living with these decisions. So once again, hey, we have circles. And especially in the transition phase from a hierarchical approach to a self-organized approach, you will have a hierarchy within these circles. Depending on your framework, like Holacracy or Sociocracy, there will be some other form of hierarchy there. But what I mean at that point is, for example, you will have a circle that feels responsible for development infrastructure, and this circle comes to the great idea to order new MacBooks. So they make the decision, they think it would be a great solution, and that it would increase our performance by whatever. And then they have a problem. This circle knows nothing, especially in the phase of transition, about company income, company outcome, and all that stuff. This is knowledge that, especially whilst transitioning, that is still in the heads of other people. Maybe people that are not affected by, let's say, the contents of the decision, like ordering no MacBooks. They don't get any. But they know the numbers and they can be part of the decision when it comes to the cash flow, if the company really can afford this. And so the solution at that point is you make the content decision, like ordering new MacBooks, and the other circle that has the transparency about cash flow is part within the decision if the company can afford this. This is something we are learning right now. Yeah? Does it work yet? No. We are learning it. This is something where you really develop or you observe behavior and you adapt and you inspect and you adapt again, you make failures, you inspect, you adapt. This is something that is happening all the time. On the other hand, you have two other methods of make decisions, like integrative decision making and consent decision making. The first is a method of Holacracy, the second one is a method of Sociocracy. Basically, these two models try to achieve a decision that is, let's say, facing forward. So not to say, why not do a decision? Just do a decision. Therefore, you have attention, you share your proposal, you get questions about the contents, maybe reactions, and afterwards there's a possibility to raise objections. And these objections should be integrated. And if no objections are present anymore and every objection is integrated successfully, that means that for example, the proposal is changed, then the decision is made. So if you want to take a deeper look into this, I recommend you these two methods. So, as I said, how do we manage precisely? We had line managers. We were there. And we still have them in certain units. And not because they don't want to go away, but because the people made the decision that these line managers did a great job and that they should stay there. This is a major differentiation. Yeah? What in my unit, where I work, what we did is we asked ourselves, what does a line manager do? What does a line manager do? And we came to 4 facets. Basically, it has something to do with disciplinary leadership, like salaries and all that stuff. On the other hand, it has something to do with being a confidant, with someone you can trust in, with someone who feels responsible for your personal development. Maybe coaching, and on the other hand, especially if you think about things like product ownership or head architects, technical or functional leadership. So this is from our personal point of view what we think a line manager with a certain mixture of roles did in the past. What did we do about that? Well, we separated it. So we created a new circle for disciplinary leadership. So this is someone who takes care about the contract topics. And now the first differentiation compared to classic line managers, you choose a person you trust. And that can be anyone. And if that person is already within that circle, it is a bilateral agreement. If not, you need the consent of the team. Why? Because this person will get salary transparency. And this, once again, has something to do with trust. Trust of the whole team. And then you have your representative within that circle. And funny enough, it can change. So if you came to the point where you say, hey, I think the chemistry is not fine anymore, choose another one. So this is not something on the career path of us. It is, let's say, to be a bit more dramatic, it is a gift of trust. And you don't keep it forever. And this, from my personal point of view, leads to a very great mixture of perspectives within that circle. You will have very different people sitting there and challenging salary decisions, contract decisions, and all that stuff. In the end, within self-organization, hopefully you don't need that anymore. So we, as a circle, we said, hopefully at some point in time we are obsolete. Are we there yet? No. But what did we do? We came up with 3 principles. The decisions we do within that circle need to be fair to the inside. That means if I have 2 developers, for example, that have the same skill set, that have the same value, they should be paid equal. And if I raise one person's money, I have to think about the others. If I hire someone, the decisions I do need to be fair to the outside as well. That means, for example, if you join us as a new developer and we have people already within our unit that share your skills and have the same value as you, rule number 1 kicks into place. We have to think about their salaries again. And how do we guarantee that we do it? Because it should be disclosable at any time. And this changes a lot. How do we take care about people? How do we ensure that people, let's say, develop themselves? Well, once again, it is a circle. This one focuses on the people, and once again, you choose at least one person you trust. At least. It can be more people, it can be 2, it can be 3. Because, for example, you say, hey, I think you're quite skilled at microservices, and I want to improve my skills there, and you inspire the team. Can you please teach me storytelling, for example? And if both of them agree, I have 2 new confidants that take care about very, very specific things of my personal development. This is a bilateral agreement between the 2 of us, and if it is okay, I have my new confidant. And once again, this can change. A confidant has a mission. He or she should take care about you. That means watch your behavior, take care if you take holidays, take care if you work more than 40 hours, for example, if you have a full contract, and all that stuff. And he or she should listen. That's it. And give feedback about the things that they hear, that they see. Everything on top, like, hey, improve my skills, help me improving my skills at microservices, is put on top. This is the basic mission every confidant should take care of and should accept to become a confidant. Everything on top is part of the bilateral agreement and only depends on the things you want to do, you want to develop, you want to improve. Yes, we have coaching. It is based on demand. That means not everyone gets 20 coachings a year. It depends on you and what you want to achieve and where you want to grow and where you have problems. And it is based on personality development. And this takes time, and this is done externally. That means not within our unit. Luckily enough, we have a coach team here at Hypoport. But on the other hand, we are not afraid of talking to external coaches if they can help us better. And the fourth aspect, technical and functional leadership, well, this is rather easy. It is everybody in the team. So no product owner, everyone is product owner. What can possibly go wrong? Lots of things, I can tell you. The basic idea, the basic concept behind that is pitch your ideas, challenge them and improve them by the team. And if you still have people that trust in you, that say, hey, this idea is awesome, do it. Period. Does this process work? Well, sort of. Should we improve it continuously? Yes, we are working on it. What? Prioritization is a hard thing to achieve. And scoping. Let's say, is the story too huge? Is it too small? Should it be split into 2 stories or these things? And these are things where we need to improve. And another thing that we learned is it is really hard to, let's say, ramp up 25 story owners as product owners. Yeah, because once again, if you are new to be a product owner, you will have a steep learning curve. But if this is just one person, you have a very short iteration phase to improve your skills, to learn new things, and to get better. If you do this with 25 people, it takes longer. What is our most valuable learning? Ask more questions. Really lots of them, and listen carefully. And if you don't understand something, ask again. What is our greatest issue we encountered? Best guesses? Time to the decision. Interesting. Other guesses? Okay, very specific examples. It is greater. It's change. Why? Does anyone know the Oatmeal? It's a great comic artist in the interwebs. He made a great comic called Believe, and I really look it up. It is amazing. And just took some brief examples of that comic and changed it a bit as an inspiration. Basically, the comic says, how does our mindset, our value system work? Well, he compares it to a house, and that is built on the things you learn in life, your father, your mother, the things you believe in, your family stuff, maybe your surroundings, like your peers, your boss, your colleagues, whatever, religion, and all that stuff, and the things you learned in your youth. And if something new does not fit into that house, our mind fights it. It declines it, it says, this is not true, I don't believe you, go away with me. And why does our mind do this? Well, it is a quite great approach because it helps us stay safe, stay sane, and not hit our head against the wall 30 or 40 times a day. But this will manifest our core beliefs. That means, for example, someone who has a great a long work experience may believe in things like hierarchies, may believe in things like it is great to have someone who is responsible to make decisions. And if you make a tremendous change towards self-organization, it is a really hard thing for these people that believe this to adapt, to change their behavior. because it is a core belief within their value system. And in the first moment they are encountered with a change, they will decline. Maybe you reach them on a rational level, but at least on the emotional level, they may start working against this change. And this is called backfire effect. And this is something very, very hard to solve. On the other hand, I don't know if you're familiar with the imposter syndrome. Give people new responsibilities or the chance to grow, to take new responsibilities, or if people are in a really tremendous change, you can observe imposter syndrome. That means there's a great talk from Gitte Kidgard from GoTo Berlin 2016, I think. Really watch it up, it is amazing. Because basically what it says is, if you are in a transition, in a change process, you look at the others. And what you may observe is that everyone around you feels comfortable about it and gets along nicely, and everything is cozy and easy and really, really well. And you read the books in the weekends and you say, God, this is hard. And this leads to a certain misconception of yourself, because you think, well, if everyone else gets along so nicely and I have my difficulties, maybe I'm a problem. Maybe I have a problem. And what if the others notice? Maybe I'm an imposter. And this is not good. This is a road you don't want to take. And we had that. Another thing you can observe is a desire for the past. In the past, everything was better. We had that product owner. He made all the decisions. And they were so awesome and they were so great. And I don't feel comfortable doing this. Or in the past, we had line managers and all that stuff. And this is natural. But it is something to take care of. Furthermore, implicit and explicit expectations, we all know that. Yeah? You know how management works, don't you? And if not, you just need to read a book, right? And assumptions. Or team culture, organizational culture is something, it needs to match, it needs to have the right culture, whatever the right culture is, I don't know. Or systemic structure. Anyone familiar with it? Oh, no. Okay. Systemic structure is something very interesting. It is something that is always there. You can't ignore it. It grows naturally. For example, within your private life, you will have someone that you listen to in certain situations. Like, for example, if you're married, it can happen that you ask your partner, hey, do we want to invest whatever? Why do you do that? Well, maybe because you trust in your partner, maybe you had bad experiences in the past. If you don't ask him or her, whatever. Yeah, and so there is some sort of structure. You are on eye level. Or maybe you consult someone else for difficult decisions. For example, your parents, because they have more life experience, and you need their governance, their help. And this is something you can encounter within your professional life as well. Yeah? For example, if you work in a startup, developing software for 2 years, and the startup comes to the great idea to hire a head architect because architecture, well, we are grown, we need someone who takes care of, and they find someone. And this someone gets the official responsibility to make architectural decisions, and every developer should go to that architecture. What can happen? Do the developers really go to the new architect? Or do they talk to that geek in the corner who developed the system already 2 years ago? Because he or she has the greatest experience. And this is something, especially when it comes to hierarchies, where the systemic structure does not play along with the hierarchy. Because from a hierarchical approach, you should ask the head architect. From a systemic approach, you ask the person you trust. Hopefully, it is the same person. So, what did we learn? Trust is really important. Why? Because trust allows you to create a safety zone where it is possible to ask questions, to share feedback, to ask uncomfortable questions, to be yourself. even if you don't feel confident, even if you feel insecure. If you don't have trust, things are getting really, really hard. Second most important thing is transparency. That means sharing information that normally would not be public. For example, the cost of a consultant. In a classic company, it can happen that this cost is not public, that it is just on online management level or HR or wherever. It is great if you share this information. It may feel strange and it may feel you uncomfortable, but it allows others to see why it is great to have a consultant and why it is great, for example, to listen to that person and not just say, hey, well, whatever he or she says, yeah? Or to share whatever conflicts you have in the team for the people that were sick or that were on holidays, or for other teams to learn to not make the same mistakes. At a certain point in time, we videotaped all of our team meetings. Did this make us comfortable? No. We really had discussions about if we really need to videotape them. But why did we do this? Because on the one hand, we wanted to strengthen remote first. That means, what about people that are not in the office today, but sitting, let's say, in the home office? They afterwards can be part of the meeting. They can watch it. They see the tonality, the things, whatever, who one says, whatever. Or other teams to see where we struggle and where we learn. And what I personally received as a feedback was, thanks for sharing this. This helps us a lot. Do we nowadays still videotape? No. Because we move forward. Yeah? The videotaping was kind of uncomfortable for participants of the unit, and so we switched to a more strict form of taking notes, so that it is still possible to, let's say, understand what happened in the meeting, but on the other hand, it allows others that felt uncomfortable with videotaping to feel more comfortable again. And even if you read this in the agile context all the times, expect mistakes. Really, don't try to avoid them. You will make mistakes if you start doing self-organization. We made them as well, and we made terrible mistakes. Don't try to avoid them. Don't try to hide them. If you make a mistake, inspect it and adapt your behavior. What helps is a clear vision and a clear understanding of the mission towards self-organization. What do we achieve by doing that? If you don't have that, it is like having several candles in the fog. It is hard to get through. And if you really struggle, ask others for support. There are consultants out there. There are other experts like HR, where you really can learn all these new responsibilities, all this stuff. Why should you do it? If you ask me personally, I would say because it is a change that focuses on the people. And basically with two major perspectives. The first perspective is it allows people to grow accordingly and based on their desires, based on their preferences. For example, if you're in a classic company, it can happen that you only can help others, like being a confidant, while doing disciplinary leadership. That means you can only be there for people if you do the contract stuff as well. And often enough, it can happen that people say, hey, I think people trust me, but I don't want to be involved in that salary stuff. I don't like it. And it can happen in a classic company that these people are not allowed to do what they want to do because they would be forced to do something they don't want to do. So you have the possibility to grow within self-organization really based on your needs, on the things you burn for, you really like, you really love. And on the other hand, especially when it comes to decisions, it is a process that takes decisions to the people that really feel the outcome, that are the best match for making that decision. So, in the end, we asked ourselves, and maybe you as well, who really is the one? Within the classic company, that answer is easy. It is a boss. Yeah? As a default, new colleague joins the team. Hey, how does it work with the holiday? Ask him. How does it work with salary raises? Ask him or her. Yeah? Within self-organization, it is not that obvious. It is harder to get a clear understanding who is responsible for what. And I will end this talk with a short story. This is a story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was asked to do it. Everybody was sure somebody would do it. And anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. And everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. And you will encounter this in self-organization. Thank you.